Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Pokemon Pocket video for you. So, we are covering yet another new deck. New-ish. It's kind of half new deck, half not. We are once again on a Koga strategy with Weezing, but this time we are pairing with the Scolipede line. Coughing and Whirlipede. Makes me think of Black and White 2. My opinion, the best Pokemon games. But for our deck, we are playing two of the Mythical Islands, Coughing specifically. Two of the genetic Apex, Weezing, though. Two Venipede, two Whirlipede, two Scolipede, one of the Mythical Island Tauros. We have two Pokeball, two Professor's Research, two Koga, two Leaf, one Sabrina. So, what does the Scolipede line offer that the Arbok line doesn't? Well, a lot of damage, and at a better rate than Muck can provide it. So, you might read Scolipede and Muck and be like, well, wouldn't Muck be the better poison sort of payoff card in a deck like this, right? Because Koga can pull Muck back. With that, it's also only a stage 1 evolution line instead of stage 2. However, the thing that I think makes Scolipede a lot better is the damage output specifically per energy ratio. Muck does get to do some nice damage with the, I think it's Venoshock on Muck as well, maybe, but it costs 3 energy on Muck, whereas it only costs 2 on the Scolipede. And while, yes, Muck is a stage 1 line where Scolipede is stage 2, the energy consumption ends up being more important. Decks in Pocket are small enough that you can pretty reliably expect to get to a stage 2 line, right? But you're still only able to place 1 energy per turn. So I think having the lower energy requirement does end up making a lot of the difference here. Either way, though, we're definitely going to want to use the Genetics Apex Weezing. It's just so good. Being able to poison on the ability, as well as only having a 1 energy attack is such a low commitment. The Mythical Island Weezing is interesting, if I remember right. It's Smokescreen, 50 damage for 2 energy that can potentially cause the opponent to not be able to attack on a coin flip. But I think that the Genetic Apex Weezing does end up being better for its ability. So here we're up against Mewtwo, which is a pretty good matchup for us because we're Dark type for some reason. Poison is in this game. But we're still going to get threatened to get 2-shot by this Mewtwo here. The Giovanni on the opponent's last turn saw to that. So, what I'm going to do here is I am going to use my Koga. You'll notice I have another Coughing in play. This is a really nice gameplay loop to be able to get into with this deck. If you have multiple Coughings, then you can Koga back the Weezing, evolve it on the same turn, and it's effectively a full heal. This is also why I'm on the Mythical Islands Coughing specifically. Its attack doesn't do any damage, but it does pull a Coughing from your deck to the bench, which I think is better than just dealing like 20 damage randomly, you know? So, alright, so we are once again going to get to tackle this Mewtwo, and yeah, the route's only just now coming down, meaning that this Mewtwo is not going to get a chance to side drive our Weezing here. I'm actually rather surprised my opponent didn't retreat here. I think I definitely would have if I was in this situation. But we'll definitely take that. So I'm going to go ahead and evolve my other Coughing here into a Weezing. Leaf. Leaf is insanely good for this deck, by the way. Not only is it useful for retreating out stuff like Tauros and the Scolipede line, but she does also reduce the Weezing to a retreat cost of only 1, which is not something possible with X speed. And having a retreat cost of 1 is fine on a Weezing, because it generally will have 1 energy attached to it, right? I think Leaf is actually an insane Pokemon for enabling Stallers like Weezing and Druddigon a lot more easily than when, she wasn't in the game. Okay, opponent is starting to ramp up their Gardevoir line, but I think it might be just a little bit too late here. So they're going to get to knock down my Weezing to 10 HP, but what I can do in turn is I can, of course, poison our opponent's Mewtwo with the Gas Leak. Then I'm going to end up using the Leaf here to actually swap out the Weezing and then get in with the Scolipede. Yeah, if I can avoid giving my opponent any points if possible, that would definitely be preferred. I'm a little bit uncertain about the Tauros in this deck, by the way. I've seen it used in a couple of tournament-topping lists that are on a similar concept, but this is one of the reasons, too, that Scolipede is so good. Between the Venoshock base damage, plus the poison bonus damage, plus the weakness, plus the 10 damage from the poison, that actually it adds up to exactly 150, allowing Scolipede to quote-unquote one-shot Mewtwo EX, as you saw here. So, yeah, this matchup is a lot of the reason I think why this deck is doing so well. And it's getting a lot of tops in, too, which I think is pretty impressive. Yeah, like I said, I'm a little bit uncertain about the Tauros. I think the thing that I hesitate the most about it is the fact that it costs 3 energy to attack. I think that's quite a bit. I might play a different Staller, or maybe even another trainer card. Well, because do you even really need a Staller when you already have the Coughing Weezing line, right? Like, I think that's kind of one of Tauros' main function here, is to be a good basic to throw out while we're getting set up. That can also deal a good amount of damage, but again, it's also kind of the only energy sink in this whole deck. Yeah, its attack is the most expensive one in this whole deck, isn't it? Everything else is 2 or less. Actually, Scolipede is the only thing that's 2, everything else is 1. That does also make this a fairly aggressive deck. Which, the meta is definitely tending, I think, to favor aggro decks as time goes on. I would consider Celebi a very aggressive deck as well. More so than Mewtwo. Celebi's kind of like the halfway between energy setup and aggro deck, which are kind of the 2 of the most major deck archetypes in Pocket right now, in my opinion. And Celebi is kind of like the perfect halfway point between them, right? Because, of course, it does have a big energy setup with Superior, but also Celebi EX can just attack with 2 energy on it, and that's actually perfectly fine. Which is about the same rate as Pikachu, which I would also consider to be fairly aggressive. Speaking of Pikachu, that's what our next opponent is going to be on here. Alright, so they're going to pass back over to us after throwing down Pikachu and Zapdos and putting an energy on the Pikachu, obviously looking to set it up here. So, I have some considerations of what I'm going to do here. Definitely want to evolve into the Weezing. I do have the Leaf, which can retreat the Tauros for free. I definitely value that higher than drawing 2 off of Professor's Research right now. I have noticed that after Mythical Islands, there do tend to be more supporters in each deck, which means that the decision of which supporter to use each turn does end up mattering more and more over time. Alright, so here we got the Poison as well as the Tackle is going to threaten the Blitzel here. Although I imagine my opponent's probably just going to X-speed it out for the Pikachu. In fact, yep, that's exactly what's going to happen here. Ideally, of course, in a perfect world, they wouldn't have had X-speed and they would have had to have used their energy for turn for that. But we don't exactly live in a perfect world. But that's alright. Yeah, so Weezing's going to get hit with the Circle Circuit here, dropping it to only 20 HP. But one of the reasons Weezing is so good is that it can tank so many things, right? It's actually kind of hard to one-shot Weezing, so. Alright, a lot of decisions here that we could potentially make. I'm going to evolve into Whirlipede for sure. Debating of where I want to put this energy, I decided to put it on the Whirlipede and not the Tauros, even though I'm about to swap in the Tauros. That's why I briefly considered it. But then I, of course, realized that this Tauros is always going to get knocked out before it can even get an attack in. So there's not really any point to trying to set up with it. Plus, I'm going to need to use my energy placement for next turn on Weezing, so getting an energy on Whirlipede now to set up a Scolipede is definitely preferred. Yeah, this Giovanni is going to allow the Pikachu to one-shot Tauros here, which is actually a bit of a blessing in disguise, because it means I don't have to use Leaf next turn, and instead I can use Professor's Research to try to draw a Scolipede. Now here, I had a pretty big decision point of whether to swap in Coughing or Scolipede, or Whirlipede rather. I decided to swap in Whirlipede because I figured it was pretty reasonably likely for me to find a Scolipede here. We managed to top deck it, but again, we did also have this Professor's Research. Now, granted, if... well, actually, no, even if I didn't draw Scolipede... Well, yeah, okay, if I didn't draw Scolipede off the Professor's Research, then I'd be a little bit in trouble, but... If I didn't draw it for a turn, I could still consider using Leaf on the Whirlipede to swap in Weezing. At that point, it really just does come down to, do you want the safe play or the risky play? Here, the risky play ended up paying off. But again, the risky play wasn't really that risky, given how easily accessible Scolipede was to us here. Alright, so we managed to KO the Pikachu here, which is very, very nice. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Mostly it's nice because our opponents, that had 2 energy on it. Yeah, paying attention to how many energies you can take with a knockout, I think is fairly important. Especially for your first knockout, right? You want to stop your opponent from having access to energy, ideally. Not something you can always control, but... Okay, here they're going to set up another Pikachu. They're going to start setting it up. Yeah, they're going to put an energy on it here. They're going to attack with the Zapdos. Now, I was thinking about this. And I was like, there's not really much of a point to keeping Scolipede here, is there? Especially when I can retreat it out for free with the Leaf. I can swap in one of these Weezings and then start the poison setup all over again. Plus, I have Weezings to spare and only one, fully established Scolipede. So I would rather risk the Weezing, of course. We'll attach an energy to Weezing here. I don't expect this Zapdos EX to stick around long enough to get KO'd, but... Of course, there's no reason not to poison and tackle it all the same. Just getting in that chip damage there. So, alright. Opponent's going to draw for a turn. I suspect they'll probably attach an energy to Pikachu. Oh, they're going to Sabrina here. I mean, yeah, this is pretty easy. We just swap in the other Weezing. I was kind of thinking about it for a second. With every card game, actually, not just this one. With every card game, I like to stop and think about seemingly obvious decisions, because sometimes they're not as obvious as they may seem. But no, here, yeah, we pretty obviously just swap in the other Weezing. It's not really that big of a deal yet. They're going to retreat the Zapdos with the energy attached to it, bringing in the Pikachu. Now, the Weezing can poison Pikachu on the next turn, because they can't one-shot it. But the question is, are they going to keep in the Pikachu? I guess if they don't, that's still fine with me, right? Because then that means they have a Pokemon that they have to set up before it can even do anything. Yeah, I wanted to attach the energy before I forget. Sometimes I do forget to attach the energy for turn. It's, I guess I probably would have remembered here, but... It's a little bit of a bad habit of mine. Anyway. Yeah, so we can bring the Pikachu down to 80 HP. And I'm just thinking, like, if they swapped in Zapdos here. Yeah, this potion literally does nothing, by the way. I'm a little surprised they put an energy on Pikachu. That made me think they were going to retreat the Pikachu. And I was actually looking to see if I had another Koga in my deck. Because I was thinking about using it, because I thought they were about to retreat the Pikachu, but then they didn't. They circle-circuited instead, which I'm like, that's completely fine, because then we just bring in Scolipede, and then now we can one-shot the Pikachu. Yeah, like I said, the potion doesn't matter at all. The Scolipede can always one-shot a Pikachu if it's poisoned, and our opponent, recognizing that, ends up conceding here. So, we get a dub against Mewtwo, we got a dub against Pikachu. It's definitely easy to see how this deck can hold up so well in the meta. But there's another recent meta deck I would like to try it out against. So our next game, our final one for this video, is going to be up against the Celebi deck. This one is using not Delmise, though, for its setup. Because, like, the build I showcased was, like, Celebi is your main attacker, Superior is your support, and then Delmise is your, like, setup basic, right? This person's going for something a little bit different. Alright, we're going to find the Coughing as well as the Tauros. We'll lead with the Coughing for sure, especially because we're going second here. And as you can see, yeah, our opponent is on the... Ooh, I actually don't remember the name of this Pokemon's evolved form. The Sleepy Mushroom. We'll just call it that for now, until it gets played. But, yeah, with the ability to guaranteed sleep, it's very, very annoying, as well as 50 damage on 2 HP is not a bad rate. Alright, going to Professor's Research here. I think that's worth doing, even if you're a little afraid of drawing the second Coughing here. I mean, even if you do draw the other Coughing, it's really not that big of a deal. Plus, between the Koga and the Leaf and the Sabrina, there are so many opportunities to play other supporters on the next turn. Mainly the Koga and Sabrina, right? I guess mainly the Koga, but... Yes, they're going to start setting up energies on the Morlusk. I don't even know the name of this one on screen right now. Oh, that's bad. But yeah, we did get to do a bit of deck thinning with the coughing there, which is nice. And we'll simply evolve into the Weezing here. Going to, of course, go for the Poison Gas plus the... Oh yeah, so here you'll notice I'm attaching an energy to Tauros, although I haven't been building it up in other games. The reason I decided to try to start building up this Tauros in this situation is that I don't even have a Whirlipede in my hand yet, let alone a Scolipede, so I'm not really anywhere near being able to set up the Scolipede. Plus, if I do start top decking Whirlipede and Scolipede, it's only 2 energy, so like I can always get that attached to the Scolipede and have it ready to go by the time on the same turn I'm able to evolve it into Scolipede, right? Speaking of evolving our opponent after healing and red carding, this red card's actually completely fine. I did not care about that hand at all. But yeah, after healing and red carding, our opponent is going to end up evolving into the Shiinotic. That's what the card is called. Like Shiitake and Hypnotic. That makes sense. So, yeah, guaranteed sleep is pretty brutal, especially when, yeah, you're going to be left up to chance as to how easily you can actually come out of sleep. We definitely always use the Pokeball here. Oh, I thought I didn't have any basics left. I was about to say, even if we don't have any basics left, but we do have the Venipede there. But you should generally always use Pokeball, even if you know you don't have any basics left in deck, because your opponent might red card you and shuffle that Pokeball back into your deck. You definitely don't want to draw it again. So, yeah, I always Pokeball even if I know I don't have any targets. There's not really any downside I can think of to doing it. I guess aside from giving your opponent information that you don't have any basics left in the deck, but how much does that really matter? Often doesn't really matter that much. So, speaking of things that don't matter, winning the sleep check between... winning it after your turn going into your opponent's is like one of the most frustrating experiences in this game. It really is. Because it's like, oh, they're just going to put me to sleep again. So, yeah, I mean, as you can see, they have the superior line still. They're just, again, using Shiinotic instead of the Delmise, which could be better. I've also seen decks that use Executor EX as their, like, stall setup, which is kind of funny, because it's an EX Pokemon and kind of a win con on its own, but it also only requires 1 energy to be able to attack. It is only a stage 1 evolution line, so it makes sense why you can use Executor EX to stall for a setup, you know? Yeah, I'm debating playing the second Venipede here, mostly because it could still matter if I find another cough. Well, no, they KO'd my other coughing, so it actually doesn't matter anymore. That's right. Yeah, so there's no reason not to establish it on board here, I don't think. Ugh, yeah, this Tauros isn't even looking like it's going to be able to do much for me, especially if they Erica here. Because if I poison a Celebi and deal 100 damage to it, I poison the Celebi, on that turn it takes 10. Well, I guess it depends if I can poison and tackle, right? Because then I could follow up with a Tauros attack, and that would be enough to KO a Celebi here. But I'm also going to have to wake up first before I can do any of this. So, alright, I'm like, I've had enough of dealing with this Shiinotic. I am going to evolve my Venipede into the Whirlipede. Okay, here I was debating if I wanted to... Because I'm going to Koga this Weezing out, but I was debating if I wanted to swap into Tauros or Whirlipede. I think I end up going with Tauros, which means I'd want to put an energy on the Tauros so it can attack and KO the Shiinotic. Otherwise, the other option is to put an energy on Whirlipede and swap that in. But I also don't want my Whirlipede to get KO'd by the Celebi, and then I can't set up Scolipede anymore, so... Yeah, that's why I ultimately put an energy on Tauros and swapped it in. I think that was the right play. I think. I mean, to be fair, also, if we don't get KO'd by the Celebi, then we can deal 100 damage to it, which is, of course, extremely noteworthy, especially in a situation like this. It means that even without evolving, the Whirlipede could come in and then Poison Bite, deal 20, and then the 10 poison damage KO Celebi. But it is going to ultimately kind of come down to these coin flips on the powerful Bloom, right? Alright, giving a third energy to the Celebi there so they get 3 coin flips. We need 2 tails for the Tauros to be able to survive this. And yeah, they just get 3 pets. So we're just going to lose our Tauros right off the bat here. Not the most lucky in the world. Lucky thing to happen in the world. So I end up putting in the Coughing. And top decking the Koga. Which would be insane if I had put in energy on the Whirlipede last turn. I could KO this Celebi right now. But of course, like, if I had put in energy on the Whirlipede, I would have had to swap it in, and then now the Whirlipede would be KO'd. So I kind of don't think there was a way to do this, but I'm going to start setting up the Whirlipede now. Now, here's the thing. I can still just win, assuming that my Weezing survives. It's once again going to come entirely down to just how many coins the Celebi can flip. They can't set up a Superior in time. So it's just going to come down to raw coin flips, 1 coin flip per energy. Oh, it's so nerve-wracking. It's so nerve-wracking. Alright, they did have this. What is the second form called? It's Snivy, something, and then Superior. Servine. They did have the Servine here. I think they just top-decked that. Alright, here we go. We need 2 of these to be tails, which is not that unlikely either. And it's just all heads again. They flipped 7 coins and landed 7 heads! Rip us, rip us. Yeah, sometimes they just want it more, but that's all good. That's all good. So that'll end up doing it for this video. Thanks, as always, for checking this one out. Super appreciate you. Feel free to sub if you want to see more Pokemon Pocket and or Alestrals content. But for now, that'll do it. So this is Hexlex. I'm signing out and hoping you have a fantastic day.